Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back with a video that I said I would do in my last video about the Superfly 4s. That was a play-tested review and just sort of an overview of the Superfly 4s. I'll leave a link in the description to that video if you'd like to go check that out. But in this video, I'm going to discuss sort of differences, similarities between the Superfly 4s and the Magista Obras. Now, over here, ideally, I would have my Magista Obras, but unfortunately, they ended up breaking on me. So, again, I posted a video a few months ago about what happened to my Magista Obra, so if you'd like, you can go check that one out. Basically, the sole plate cracked, and I had to send them back, and I no longer have a pair. I didn't end up getting another pair of Obras. I stuck with Predator Instincts, which I currently wear. But since I've worn those, the Obras, and since I've tried the Superfly 4s out now, I decided I would do a sort of comparison for you guys out there to really understand kind of what the differences are. Because when they first came out, you had the Obras and you had the Superflies, and everyone was, okay, sort of, you've got the high dynamic fit collar, you've got flyknit upper material, what's going to be the difference between the two shoes? So I thought I would sort of discuss that today, just highlight some of the differences and the similarities, if there are any, between the Superfly 4s and the Magista Obras. So we'll start right away with let's start with the dynamic fit collar. So right away, both shoes have the high cut dynamic fit collar, as Nike calls it. Straight off, there's no difference. Okay, the same material, same sort of elasticy, stretchiness. Okay, that you can pull on it to stretch, to get your foot in, and then it bounces right back to its original shape. So you have the same sort of dynamic fit collar. So from here up, nothing changes whatsoever. Now the big differences lies with the upper material. Okay, now I know they're both flyknit, but the finishing of the flyknit is what makes a difference. So as far as the upper is concerned, they both have a knitted yarn material, knitted together by Nike, that creates flyknit. Okay, but the covering on top is the difference. The Superfly is much thinner. It's very thin, and they put these brio cables from the sole plate up to the laces in order to support the shoe and allow you to have your foot locked down in the shoe when you're changing directions, cutting, and moving around on the field. The Obras also has a similar sort of cable system that allows your foot to be locked down, but because the yarn is thicker, because the knit is thicker itself, and there's a different pattern along it, the material is a little more supportive to begin with. Okay, but you also have that support sort of cage, I'll call it, in the Obra as well. So the Superfly 4 flyknit is much thinner and very smooth. Now this is the other difference. The texturing, the finish of the flyknit is different. On the Superfly 4, it's almost as if you have a super thin layer of Nike skin, similar to what you find on the Hypervenoms. Very thin layer of that covering the flyknit all around the upper material on the top of your foot. On the Obra, you have a thicker flyknit, and then on top of that, you have more, again, I believe it's Nike skin again, but it's thicker, and you have a pattern that's a little bit more similar to the Hypervenoms again. So it's a much thicker sort of material. Again, they're both extremely soft, so there's no difference when it comes to that. But the Superfly 4 is if you really want a very thin shoe, kind of marketed towards a speed boot, and the Obra is going to be a bit thicker, still very soft, but a bit thicker, a bit more supportive, and it's going to be marketed a bit more towards a playmaker, that sort of midfielder style, that kind of role. So that's kind of the difference in the upper material. The feeling that you get on this is a big difference as well. On the Superfly 4, it's so smooth and almost slick sort of feeling. There's no grip to it. It's just, the ball just slides around on your foot, so that provides a very unique feeling. On the Obra, it's got a much more sort of waxier finish. It's kind of similar to the Hypervenom in a sense, where it's got a grippier texturing to it. So you feel like you've got a little bit more control on the ball. Again, I guess what the shoe's kind of marketed for, right? With the Obra, the Magista, it's for the controlled style playmaker. So it feels like you've got a bit more grip on the ball, allowing you to control it a bit and And that's kind of the difference, the big difference when it comes to the upper material. So we've got just same sort of high cut collar, but we've got a completely different feeling between the Superfly 4 and the Obras. These are very smooth, very slick, extremely soft, but a little bit more marketed towards that speed winger, striker kind of player. Whereas the Obra is a little bit more towards that control midfielder, that kind of role, and you can definitely feel it in the shoe. It's got that sort of texturing, that extra little grip, that extra bit of support that allows, you know, for a midfielder to kind of dictate play, that kind of idea. So, I mean, I know that's all sort of tied in with the marketing, but the way the shoe is actually made, the way the flyknit is kind of made, it does kind of work, to be very honest with you. The other thing, when I compare fit, the Superfly 4 is a little bit more narrow. Like, I feel like it's narrower and a little longer. So again, it works with that narrow, speedy kind of player, whereas the Obra is a bit wider, a bit more overall comfortable, and it works again with that sort of idea of that control style player. But again, similarity is the flyknit, high cut collar. Difference is the feeling. It really is. The feeling is completely different from the Superfly 4 to the Obras. And again, the fit is also different. You've got a thinner sort of shoe to a wider, more comfortable shoe in the Obra. And then we'll move on to the Soleplate. This is probably the biggest difference. I wish I had one over here, an Obra, so you guys could see the difference in the video, but unfortunately I don't. The big difference is in the Soleplate. On the Obra, you have rounded studs, almost the exact same pattern as you find on the Hypervenom. So they're rounded studs. You got your 4 on the back, and I believe you have 4 on the outside and 3 on the inside, with a couple of little pivot studs in the middle just to give you some extra support. As you can see on the Superfly 4s, you've got 4 on the back, and you've got 2 on the outside. You've got this little round sort of pattern in here, one over here, and a support stud in the middle, but they're all blades. So these are bladed studs, and they're very, very long, very significantly long, and for me, they caused a lot of pressure points, specifically on the outside of the shoe. It just dug into the bottom. It wasn't comfortable at all, and it was almost painful to wear. Excuse me. Compared to the Obras. The Obras were a little bit more even. They were much more well-rounded as far as where the pressure points were distributed along the bottom of your foot. And it was just much more comfortable for me, and especially when you play on a tougher, harder artificial surface or firm ground surface, the Obra stud pattern, at least for me, worked so much better than the Superfly 4s. I believe if you were to play on soft ground, this pattern would work well because your studs are long, they're bladed, so it could dig into the ground, and it's going to allow you to accelerate and push off with a bit more ease in a soft ground surface than on a firmer artificial surface. So for me, again, the Obras, the pattern that the Obras had was much more well-rounded and just better suited for me, and better suited for a firmer ground, and a bit more, I guess it was suited for various plane surfaces, where I feel as these are a little bit more specific as to one sort of surface, if you could follow that. So the materials used in the Soleplate, as you can see on the Superfly 4s, you have this carbon fiber Soleplate that was used on the Superfly 1, 2, and 3s a couple of years ago. And the Obra, you have I believe it's a P-Bax material with a glass nylon finish or something like that. So it's a different outsole material. Both are very flexible and forgiving. As you can see on these ones, it provides a lot of flexibility in the toe box area, but underneath your foot, I believe that's due to the carbon fiber and this reinforcement here. I think that's glass nylon as well, actually. This is just stiff. It's very hard to bend that. It doesn't bend at all underneath here, if you could see. Underneath there, it's just so stiff. So I believe that's due to the carbon fiber. So the Obra is a little bit more flexible all around the Soleplate. So that's where that is a big difference between the two shoes. So other than that, there's not much more I can say. The insoles are fairly similar. One thin layer of foam. This one's perforated. I can't remember if the Magistas were or not. I think they were both perforated insoles, so probably almost the exact same thing. But that's it. That's basically it. So you have the Superfly 4s geared more towards a winger, striker, sort of speedy kind of boot category, and the Obra geared towards a more control-oriented midfielder, playmaker, solid kind of shoe. So again, that's the difference. Those are the differences between them. You've got one shoe that's, you know, very, very, I don't know what to say about it. I've said everything I've said about it, really. It's the other one's just more supportive, a bit more forgiving, a bit more all-around comfort, whereas this one is really a lockdown foot, a very tight-fitting shoe, and it's really geared to just take off and go. It's really, you know, that acceleration aspect, and that's felt within the sole plate. The way it's just made, the way the whole bottom of the shoe is designed. It's just, you know, it screams speed. You know, that's what it's for. So hopefully I've highlighted the differences between them, because again, there are similarities in the fact that they're both flyknit. They both have the high knit, the dynamic fit collar, high cut collar. But they're both, the upper materials are the same. The real difference is the way it fits. This one much more narrow and longer, whereas the Obra is a bit more comfortable, a little bit wider. And then the feelings are different again. This one's very, very smooth, and the Obra's got a bit more grip to it, a bit more texture to it. And again, the sole plates, which I've just highlighted, is the big difference for me. You've got the bladed studs here that are just too long and not comfortable for me, whereas the Obras are rounded and allows you to play on various playing surfaces. So that's it, guys. That's my video of the Superfly 4s versus the Magista Obras. Again, I wish I had a pair of Obras over here so you could see them side by side. Unfortunately, I don't, but that's my sort of comparison of the two. So if you're looking to go for the Superfly 4s or the Obras, I would say if you are more of a winger, I don't really like saying that. I don't like saying this shoe is for this kind of position and this shoe is for that kind of position, because whatever you're comfortable in is the shoe to go for. But if you like a tighter fitting shoe, if you're looking for that sort of burst of acceleration, if you want something that really is really snug on your foot, and you like that sort of slick, smooth feeling on the ball, the Superfly 4 is the shoe that you should go for. If you feel you are more of a controlled kind of player, you like having a bit of extra grip, you like an overall very comfortable shoe, and a shoe that you can use on many different surfaces, I'd say go for the Magista Obras. I think you're going to get more use out of that shoe if you're in that sort of category compared to the Superfly 4s. So that's it, guys. That's all I can say about the two. And stay tuned. I'll have some other videos coming up shortly. I still plan to do my review of my play-tested review of my Predator Instincts. I still said I would do that, so I've got to get that video up, and hopefully it's coming soon. So thanks again, guys. Stay tuned to the channel, and thanks for watching. Take care.